Nobody builds walls better than me.
Nobody's better to people with disabilities than...
I've also heard I was first in my class at the Wharton School of Finance. And sometimes when you hear it, you don't say anything. You just let it go.
There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am.
That's the way you learned at the Wharton School of Finance. I mean, that would be the ultimate thing.
Nobody's fighting for the veterans like I'm fighting for the veterans.
Nobody's stronger than me.
Nobody loves the Bible more than I do.
I'm highly educated. I went to the Wharton School of Finance.
Nobody has better toys than I do. There is nobody that respects women more than I do.
There's nobody more conservative than me.
I went to the Wharton School of Finance. I was a very fine student.
There's nobody's ever had crowds like Trump has had.
And nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation. Nobody knows more about trade than me.
There's nobody that understands the horror of nuclear better than me.
In all fairness to the former president, is that true? Do you have to use a teleprompter when speaking about President Trump? Just kind of riff on your thoughts on him.
Yeah, he's so stupid. Look at the lame, inane things that he said. He's so stupid, he can't even say anything clever or smooth. He's a moron.
Jimmy Kimmel didn't raise his voice to question Donald Trump's intelligence. Instead, he counted something. During a recent broadcast, he attempted a project no one had fully undertaken since the phrase "stable genius" entered America's political conversation nearly 8 years ago.
The return of the stable genius.
Will you be tweeting differently once you board the Air Force One?
No, that's other people that do that. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
The last time was in a tweet. President Trump certainly is stable when it comes to consistently describing his stability.
I'm a very stable genius.
You know, we've been hearing so much about these cognitive tests he keeps acing. You guys know what ACE means? Okay. All right, and I've offered him the opportunity to take the test live on television. He still hasn't gotten back to me on it. So in the interest of fairness, and also to get a sense of what he keeps babbling about, we got in touch with a doctor who gives this test regularly, was willing to take, or asked to take, by the way. These cognitive exams, they're about as difficult as the maze on the back of a box of Captain Crunch, but he's still very proud of his performance.
But I've taken now 3 cognitive tests. I've aced every single one of them. And
he said the White House doctors have reported he's in perfect health and that I aced, meaning was correct on 100% of the questions asked. He defines the word aced for, like we're the ones with dementia. I aced for the 3rd straight time my cognitive exam, something which no other president or previous vice president.
He counted every public occasion on which Donald Trump, serving as President of the United States in his 2nd term, described himself as a genius. Not merely smart, not simply intelligent. The specific word genius, that included phrases like stable genius, very stable genius, really smart, and every similar variation Trump used over the years. The final number wasn't 20. It wasn't even 100. Kimmel's research team traced the record all the way back to 1987, when Trump first told a national television audience that he had an exceptionally high IQ. They reviewed rally speeches, television interviews, archived broadcasts, social media posts, campaign appearances, and public statements. Every declaration, every repetition, every unsolicited claim about his own intellectual ability. The final count reached 847. When Kimmel displayed the number on screen, the audience grew noticeably quiet, because 847 no longer felt like an isolated habit. It looked like a measurable pattern.
Cohen testimony was his claim that one of the many weird things Trump ordered him to do was to send letters warning Trump's high school colleges and the college board not to release his grades or SAT scores. In 2011, Trump challenged President Obama to release his academic records, and then someone called Trump's high school and demanded they find and bury Trump's transcript. So I would bet Trump's grades were so bad he couldn't even get into Trump University. But military academy, where young Donald Trump went to school. Please welcome Dr. Ned Stewart. Donald Trump call you to ask to have his grades buried.
Of course not, Jimmy. Donnie would never do that.
But Kimmel didn't stop at the total. He arranged every claim on a timeline. That timeline revealed something no one had previously measured. Trump's self-descriptions as a genius didn't appear randomly. They surged at specific moments. The increases were consistent, predictable, and closely followed similar kinds of public events. The first major spike came in April 2011, roughly 2 weeks after the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where President Barack Obama spent several minutes joking about Trump before an audience of journalists, politicians, and celebrities.
Tonight, for the first time, I am releasing my official birth video. There's a vicious rumor floating around that I think could really hurt Mitt Romney. I heard he passed universal health care when he was governor of Massachusetts. Someone should get to the bottom of that, and I know just the guy to do it. Donald Trump is here tonight. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac?
During the 2 weeks that followed that event, Trump's public use of the word genius to describe himself appeared 22 separate times across interviews and public appearances. Rather than offering outside evidence of his abilities, the repeated declarations became the evidence being presented. The second major spike arrived in January 2018. Just days after Michael Wolff's book quoted White House staff describing Trump as unfocused, unwilling to read, and lacking attention, Trump's response wasn't simply to reject those claims. Instead, over the next 72 hours, Kimmel's timeline recorded 14 different statements in which Trump emphasized his own intelligence. Among them was the now famous "very stable genius" tweet, followed by additional remarks reinforcing the same description.
So I want to thank Senate Finance Chairman and a very spectacular man, Orrin Hatch. Where's Orrin? Orrin? I love listening to him speak. He said once, I am the single greatest president in his lifetime. Now, he's a young man, so it's not that much. And he actually once said, I'm the greatest president in the history of our country. And I said, does that include Lincoln and Washington? He said, yes. I said, I love this guy.
It's very interesting with President Obama. Going to go down as one of the worst presidents in the history of this country. He has been a disaster on the military. You look at we can't beat ISIS. He's been a disaster on health care because Obama's got to be repealed and replaced.
The third spike appeared in July 2020. It followed a widely discussed public appearance in which Trump appeared to mispronounce Yosemite, saying Yosemite more than once. According to Kimmel's research, the following month included 41 separate statements in which Trump praised his own intelligence, his brain, his natural abilities, or even his genes. 41 public assertions following a single widely shared pronunciation mistake. As the timeline expanded, the pattern became increasingly difficult to ignore. Whenever Trump's intelligence became the subject of public criticism, the frequency of his own declarations increased almost immediately. Kimmel didn't narrate the graph with jokes. He simply displayed it. Each spike lined up with periods marked by public embarrassment, political setbacks, business controversies, or renewed discussion about Trump's cognitive abilities. For viewers raised believing that genuinely confident people rarely need to announce their confidence over and over again, the chart carried a different meaning. It suggested something beyond self-confidence. It suggested repetition, a statement made so often that it began sounding less like persuasion aimed at the audience and more like reassurance directed inward. Then Kimmel reached back to the earliest example, a 1987 appearance on Larry King Live. During a conversation about a real estate development, Trump unexpectedly shifted the discussion and volunteered, "I have a very high IQ, Larry. Very high." Larry King hadn't asked about intelligence. The conversation concerned a construction project. From that interview in 1987 to Trump's second inauguration, nearly 4 decades later, stretched 37 years. Between those two moments sat 847 public claims about his own intelligence. The number kept rising. The intervals between declarations became shorter. And, according to Kimmel's presentation, the increasing frequency became part of the story itself. What made the segment stand out was its approach. It wasn't structured as a comedy roast. It was presented as documentation, a count, a timeline, a visual comparison showing how declarations of intelligence appeared to coincide with periods of criticism or public pressure. The jokes largely disappeared. The numbers remained. That is the type of presentation people continue sharing long after the broadcast ends. It becomes something referenced during conversations, cited online, and discussed in comment sections. Not because it relies on insults, but because it reduces a long history into measurable data. If you appreciate turning years of scattered moments into patterns people can actually see, subscribe to the World Movement. We organize the timeline so you don't have to. The discussion remains open. The number doesn't change depending on who looks at it. Kimmel set the chart on his desk. He didn't grin. He didn't end with a punchline. He simply allowed the figure to remain on screen. 847. 847 public claims spread across nearly 4 decades. Each declaration arriving a little louder whenever questions about Trump's intelligence became louder as well. The point wasn't to prove whether Trump was or wasn't a genius. It was to highlight that people widely recognized as geniuses rarely need to remind everyone hundreds of times. According to the segment, Trump has not publicly responded to the count. Kimmel's team later published the methodology and source material used to compile the timeline, making the data available for anyone who wanted to review it. As the World Movements concluded, we found the page number. That's the entire job. The patterns repeat. We slow them down.